who is the top 10 of 1990 in the WWF and WCW? Well, at number 10, Paul Roma. So look, I know you're all going crap on this, but look, I look at these from the perspective of that year. Yes, we know that Power and Glory wasn't going to do a whole lot after this, but I'm sorry, in the last half of 1990, Power and Glory was one of the top tag teams, period, in the WWF. Paul Roma would team up with Hercules, and together they formed Power and Glory. And right off the bat, they went up against the Rockers at SummerSlam, taking Shawn Michaels out in the process, picking up a huge win there. And then he would go on, or both of them would go on, to become part of the first team at Survivor Series in the history of the event to have all members of the team survive together. That's pretty impressive. And not only that, but this is the year that the winners went on to headline the main event. So not only did he establish dominance inside the tag division, he also headlined the pay-per-view as well. This is his second time in the top 10. His first was back in 1987. Number 9, Beautiful Bobby. So look, I mean, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, they had been feuding the entire time, and they actually would end up injuring Robert Gibson. The Midnight Express would go on to win the U.S. tag titles, and they had a pretty good run with them. However, by the end of the year, Sweet Stan Lane would leave the company, and Beautiful Bobby had to strike out on his own in the singles division. And I don't think a lot of people really thought, he would do much. However, he just kept on winning and proved his critics wrong. Number 8, Lex Luger. So, toward the end of the year, Luger definitely has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, a bit of an attitude problem. But, the rest of the year saw, a very noble hero and warrior inside of the total package. Initially, he saw, one of his really good friends, Sting, get injured by the Horsemen, so he took it upon himself to stand up to the entire group. Went up against him, even headlined 2 different pay-per-views with Ric Flair, including a steel cage match for that world title. However, he was unlucky at getting those titles, but during that entire time, he was also the U.S. champion. He had a really good run at the U.S. title this year. Towards the end of the year, he would go up against Stan Hansen, and they would have this intense, hard-hitting feud. That would end with Luger defeating Hansen in a Texas Lariat match. And that is like Stan Hansen's specialty, so there you go. This is Luger's second time being in top 10. Last year, he was actually number 4, and he dropped down 4 spots this year. Number 7, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So Hacksaw had a really good year, and I know he's not what you would think of somebody who'd be in the top 10, but I'm sorry, he had a really good pay-per-view run, winning matches at the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam. In fact, during the summer, during the collapse of the Soviet Union, Duggan, being the all-American ambassador that he is, befriended Nikolai Volkov, who kind of didn't have a country anymore, and kind of showed him the great side of being an American citizen. Teamed up with him, everything like that. In fact, the only match that Hacksaw lost this year was at the Survivor Series, so not bad. Number 6, Ricky Morton. So you kind of touched on him a little bit when I was talking about the Midnight Express and the Rock and Roll Express and their huge feud. Rock and Roll Express would actually go on and feud with the fabulous Freebirds as well. They even had a corporal punishment match where they got to whack each other with leather straps. They would go on to actually get a shot at the World Tag Titles, but it just didn't quite work out for them because the Freebirds would eventually injure Robert Gibson, Ricky's partner, and putting him out of commission there for a little bit. However, Ricky, showing his resiliency, easy for me to say, would team up with Thomas Rich, and they would continue just dominating the tag division after that. So this is Ricky Morton's second appearance in the top 10. His last was back in 1987. Number 5, Hulk Hogan. So this was kind of a rough year for the Hulkster. Of course, he started off strong, world champion, won the Royal Rumble. However, at WrestleMania 6, he would go on to face the Ultimate Challenge as he took on the Ultimate Warrior in a champion versus champion match. Of course, his world title against the Intercontinental Champion, Ultimate Warrior. And after a very epic event, Warrior won. He won it. And a lot of people kind of saw this as maybe, a passing of the torch. And Hogan was kind of in his own head and was even kind of contemplating ending Hulkamania. As he talked about, he's wanting to retire, maybe, step away from the ring for a little bit. However, before any of this would go down, Earthquake would come out, sideline him, and injure him, putting him out of action for the entire summer. In fact, he wouldn't come back until SummerSlam, which you got to give a lot of credit to the Hulkamaniacs and his good friend Tugboat for kind of rallying behind him during this kind of dark period. At SummerSlam, he would come back and defeat the Earthquake, and then he would close out his year headlining and winning the Survivor Series main event. He actually breaks another record here. Hogan's breaking records all over the place this year. He is the first wrestler to be placed in the top 10 a total of 4 times. He was in there last year, dropped 2 spaces. Hulk Hogan. Number 4, the Ultimate Warrior. Warrior had an incredible year this year. I mean, literally winning the world title at WrestleMania 6, defeating the immortal Hulk Hogan. Hogan's been the top guy forever, and now Warrior is finally able to kind of step up to become that guy. He headlined at SummerSlam, taking on an old rival in Rick Rude inside of a steel cage match. And then, like Hogan, he pulled double duty at Survivor Series, winning the opening bout against the Perfect Team as the sole survivor. And he would advance and win in the main event in the Ultimate Survivor Series matchup with Hulk Hogan. This is Warrior's second time in the top 10. Last time he was in the top 10, it was 1988. Number 3, Scott Steiner. So with the Road Warriors, or Legion of Doom, or what you want to call them, leaving the WCW for the WWF, the Steiner Brothers quickly became that number 1 tag team in the company. Arguably the world. They would not only win the U.S. tag titles, they'd also win the world tag titles in pretty short order. And at the end of the year, the Steiner Brothers would take on the best tag teams from around the world in the Pat O'Connell Memorial International Cup Tag Team Tournament, defeating 3 teams in one night to prove and establish themselves as the best tag team in the world. Number 2, Rick Steiner. So everything I just said about Scott, just apply it to Rick. Same thing. This is actually Rick Steiner's second year in the top 10. He's actually up 5 spaces from last year. And number 1, Sting. I mean, Sting had this was the coming out year for Sting. He transcended from just being a top contender to actually winning the world title. The year didn't start off good for him, though. Once he had a match kind of lined up against Ric Flair, the Horseman put him out of action, sidelined him, and took him down. He would make his comeback, though, at the Great American Bash. And, of course, with the dudes with attitudes in his corner, being able to hold back the Horseman, Sting was able to defeat Ric Flair for that world title. But, of course, his battles with the Horseman was not over at all. Halloween Havoc, he was almost screwed out of the title in his match against Sid Vicious. He would get lured away from by the Horseman from the ring, and Barry Windham, dressed up like Sting, would enter and take a quick pinfall from Sid Vicious. And everybody thought Sid won the world title. However, Sting came back, chased off Barry Windham, the match was restarted, and Sting was able to defeat Sid Vicious and keep his world title. However, his next challenger was a bit of a doozy. This guy was playing mind games with him. I'm talking, of course, about the Black Scorpion, a person from his past, and just basically mentally tormenting this guy all the way through the rest of the year. At Starrcade, they finally hooked up inside of a steel cage for that world title. And in the end, Sting was the winner. When he ripped off the mask and revealed who the Black Scorpion was, it was none other than his arch nemesis, Ric Flair. But it didn't matter because Sting was undefeated the entire year on pay-per-view and kept that world title right around his waist. This is the second year in a row he's in the top 10. Last year he was number 5, but this year he's number 1.